Hey, welcome back, Star Wars fans. Welcome back, fans of Rule the Galaxy. This is Joe. We're trying something new tonight. I'm doing this on my phone. So hopefully it turns out right. But as my brother Tony just told me, I think my computer, my headsets, and everything else have been possessed. So we're going to go with the phone tonight. So it's going to be a great episode. We're Rule the Galaxy as usual, and you can always follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter. You can email us at ruletheGalaxySW@gmail.com. And you can now check us out. We're dabbling in YouTube. It's fun. You can just go check out Rule the Galaxy there. We put our shows on there now, but also some of the guys are just putting some quick videos on there just to say hi. So check us out on YouTube. But tonight, not only do we have some of our regular crew with us, but we have a special guest, a gentleman who we've met. You know, it's that typical Star Wars story where you're meeting people on Twitter and on Star Wars Twitter. And so we have a special guest tonight in Greg Cast, but we'll finish with Greg. We'll go around the room real quick and introduce everybody on the Rule the Galaxy crew. We'll start with my brother, Tony. Tony, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Joe. We got some good sledding in today, me and my son. And yeah, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you and I and Nick, we were all facing that snowstorm that hit Indianapolis, and I had to shovel my driveway twice today. So that was fun. And sledding. I miss sledding, so I'm glad you got a chance to go do that with your son. My kids right now are looking at me like, are you crazy? I'm not going outside with you. It's cold. My cousin Nick Shesky, and he's got our Uncle Wayne bouncing around the house there. Nick, how are you tonight?
Hey, I'm doing great. Yeah, like you said, Uncle Wayne's in the house, so it doesn't get much better than that. Tony, it sounds like you had way more fun in the snow than I did. I just got to shovel my driveway and go to work. That was basically there was zero sledding. It was treacherously white knuckling it on the way to work in the middle of all the snow. But thankfully, we're doing better now. So doing great. Glad to be here.
Good. And like I said, our special guest tonight, Greg Cast, also for you on Twitter, Star Wars Twitter. You can check him out at Eye on Canon. And Greg, I'll let you explain all that and the naming and how it's laid out and everything like that. But thank you so much for being here, and thanks for being a part of the show.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. As I said just before we started, what I love about your show is it's just a really cool Star Wars hang. It's loose, it's fun, it's some good laughs. So I'm excited to get to be a part of it. Ion Canon, EYEONCANON. Really, truly, it was just a pun I thought of in line at Star Wars Celebration, and I said, "That's the account." And you get to spend plenty of time in line, so I built the account from there. Awesome. For better or worse, I'm on Star Wars Twitter and always watching in horror, but never turning away. So I'll be there if anyone wants to find me.
It's become just a madhouse in the last. Well, it was already a madhouse back in 2015 on, but in the last few months, it's become just a train wreck of a dumpster fire. So real quick, everybody knows the three of us. We're all indie guys. We're all here in the Midwest. You know, I was an original trilogy guy. Tony's my little brother. I got him hooked on it. Nick was a sequel or a prequel trilogy guy. That
grew up on that. Just gave you.
You take it easy, Joe.
I know. I stopped myself. I know. But give us a little background on you, Greg, and your love for Star Wars and how it all got started for you.
Sure. So I'm what I call a child of the dark times. So I was born in '83. So I missed that original excitement. So to me, Star Wars existed as VHS cassette tapes, usually taped off of the USA Network, and then books eventually. But I was very fortunate to get put down at a sleepover when I was probably in about 5th grade, and somebody said, "You've never seen these movies?" and played a video cassette of Empire Strikes Back, and I really never looked back from that point forward. I saw Empire and Jedi that first night, but that friend did not have A New Hope. So it actually was a long time until I saw A New Hope, and was very confused why everything was just slightly different, and really fell into Star Wars backwards in that way. And then I've been devoted ever since. I think when I was in college, it waned a little bit just because, you get other interests and you don't want to be the kid in the dorm with the Star Wars room necessarily. Doesn't help with a lot of those relationships at college. But that was when the prequels were coming out. So I still remember I skipped my first class. I was a, by the lay student, and I skipped my first class junior year of college because it was the day the Attack of the Clones toys came out. And I jumped on the subway. I went to school in Boston, here where I live now. And I jumped on the subway and I hit every darn toy store I could think of in this whole city. Just spent my morning, blew up my credit card in a way I don't think I've ever paid off, and collected it all. So kind of came out of the closet then as a Star Wars fan to my college. They knew after that when I showed up with the giant bags of action figures and wouldn't let anybody touch them or open them. So,
but I do tell people about the dark times all the time, because being an original trilogy guy, by the time I was 12 and 13, it was Jedi. And then when I was starting to chase girls and wanted to play sports in high school, there was no Star Wars, right? I was going through that until the Zahn trilogy came out in 91, 92, 93, which reinvigorated me. But I always find people, it's very rare that I find people that were born in the dark times that really do attach themselves to it. It's usually those kids who were born around the time of the Zahn novels, or born at the time of the original trilogy, or born right before the prequels came out. So you being born in 83, that's an interesting fit. And I'll back you up on that story of buying the toys. One of our local, it was a Toys R Us. Yeah. Toys R Us was doing a midnight thing for the Phantom Menace when those new toys were coming out. And I wanted to get my son some of the toys opening night before they, were out. And I went in there at midnight, and sure enough, there's a news crew in there. And all the people I knew at the time, who of course, were all trying to be adults, they are like, Molinaro, what? We see you on the news at midnight buying Star Wars toys. And but you know what? I toughed through it, and I was like, how the heck with you guys? This is what I love to do. So that midnight toy run, man, I miss those. Do you guys miss those? I mean, it's not like that anymore. You got to buy everything online now. I miss making that rush to the store and getting those toys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I miss not so much going at midnight because I was too young to go do that stuff when it was going on. I couldn't drive back then. What I miss is showing up at a store and there being merchandise there to buy. And now that's not a thing. I was in Target the other day texting Joe because I saw a Grand Admiral Thrawn. And let's be clear, it was like one of the only action figures that was available there. The rest, it was like the whole shelf was empty. It was like back when everybody was stocking up on toilet paper for COVID, right? Like it was, the shelf was clear. I missed that. That's what I missed. My question though, Greg, you said that you saw Empire and Return of the Jedi. After seeing A New Hope out of order there, was it a letdown, or did you enjoy it equally?
I mostly remember how strange it was because for one, Han Solo said, let's go to hyperspace, and they just did. And I was like, oh, the ship can do that. I didn't realize. And I think it even struck me then as a slower paced movie, which I think, for people who saw it in 77, that was like a revolutionary fast paced movie. And so that surprised me. I will say I've grown into it though, because I would list A New Hope high in my rankings, and particularly Old Ben is my favorite version of a character. I like all Obi-Wans, but I'm really attached to Old Ben, and that's maybe my role as a teacher and thinking a little bit about that in my life. But so I think it is funny that I came to it last and now kind of settle on it as, everybody always fights about Empire being number one versus A New Hope, but I think for me, A New Hope ranks a little higher than Empire.
Very cool.
Today, anyway.
With your classes that you teach, since you prescribe to the Obi-Wan kind of things, you tell them truth from a certain point of view.
I just lie to them all the time. This will really serve you well, kids. Let me tell you some things.
Yeah, I got you. No, that's great. That's great. So you are a teacher, and again, I know we discussed it before the show. What grades and what topics?
Yeah, so I'm trained in literature. I went to grad school for a gigantic portion of my life, and I have my PhD in literature. But I teach here in Boston, just outside town at a university. I teach mainly freshman writing, and every once in a while they get to throw me a fun class that I get to build. And so this past fall, I built my own comic book class and taught a bunch of my favorite superheroes.
Nice.
And I haven't taught Star Wars in a while. I have taught Joseph Campbell's mythology a lot. And I always get that student who thinks they'll impress me by building a Star Wars project. I'm like, you don't know what you're in for, kid. Like,
You made a
like,
terrible mistake. This is
yeah. Is somebody writes about Lord of the Rings. I'm like, I kind of get it, but then I can scrutinize every choice in a Star Wars paper.
Well, we were blessed enough to have author Adam Bray on recently, and I tell you what, that guy, he gave us a little bit of the inside scoop. Actually writing those reference books for Star Wars and for Marvel, it's just fabulous. And he's basically turned himself to a Star Wars and Marvel encyclopedia. So
Yeah.
I would think you being in literature and mixing that in there as well, you probably do catch them up quite a few times. So, but yeah, so thank you again for being here. And you know what? Again, we're testing this out a new way for Joe. And if it's a complete failure, we can just blame it on me as usual. So it was the internet, now it's speakers, but we'll go forward. So one thing that we've been doing, and Joey, my son, and I, when we started the show, we did these a lot, and we're getting back into them. News items or topics to start the show. We call them the Force Four. And if any of you have a topic or a news item you want to go over, feel free to throw one out. We'll make it one of the Force Four, but I'll throw one out there to start, if that's okay. So Force Four, number one, we're looking at, again, we were talking before the show about the High Republic. From what I'm seeing in some different articles I was reading, in the High Republic there, and I think it's in the Into the Dark novel, the kind of what am I looking for? Arboretum, is that how you say it? That takes place in the new Into the Dark novel was also where Snoke was in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics. Have you guys heard anything about this, or because I know I just read those comics, and I remember him standing in this thing full of trees and plants and everything else, didn't think anything of it. But in the High Republic book, that's kind of something where they're saying there's some dark powers, dark sensitivity. Greg, have you read up anything on this, or do you know anything about that topic at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've read those comics and I've read that novel, and I didn't make the connection at all when I read them. The clue for me is they've been putting out those great little animated shorts, and there was one on I believe they're pronounced Drengir, the villains in that Claudia Gray book, and that had a visual of the space station, and it exactly matched the Kylo Ren comic. So
okay,
that kind of gave it away to me. And I didn't come to that conclusion myself. Other people did, and I stole their idea. But yeah, it's a really interesting thought, and that would be the second kind of connection to that series, as I understand it. With the outpost that features in Light of the Jedi also being part of Kylo Ren's journey in those comics.
That, and then also we have the Santekas from the sequel trilogy, all the way, their family line goes all the way up into these novels as well. So look, there are times when we are really high on what Disney does, and there are times where we say, this is a little questionable what they're doing, but maybe, just maybe, with having these things, these High Republic books stretch all the way to the sequel trilogy, maybe that's all coming together behind the scenes, and we don't know. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I'm with you. And that was actually one of the things that I was curious about with Charles Soule coming back and writing this Light of the Jedi. My question was, before I started reading, I got about 6 or 7 chapters left in Light of the Jedi. But when they start throwing around Sinteka, and you see the kind of the retconning that they're doing to help build some depth to the sequel trilogy, it made me excited based on some of the stuff that we've already talked about of, the reason why so many people love episode 3 even more now is because of the Clone Wars stuff that happened, and it builds some rich backstory that you're able to see and kind of build off of. And so I'll be curious, the deeper we get into High Republic, how many times they try to come back and retcon some sequel stuff to add some depth, so people go, you know what, 10 years from now, people go, man, those movies weren't as bad as I thought they were, because I know now that the Santeca family was big in hyperspace and all that, all this kind of stuff. And when I heard that name, I immediately went, wait a minute, I know that name. Where is that from? And then it like clicked, and it was this cool moment of, oh man, yeah, they're reaching back. This is cool. All the pieces are coming together. So no, I'm with you.
Alfie always says that the Disney side of things is trying to create the Marvel version of Star Wars now, where everything rolls up into one. And the fortunate thing about Star Wars is you've got centuries and millennia to deal with, instead of Marvel is more based on the last 100 years kind of setup. So I'm hoping that's coming true. And I was really shocked by that, because I didn't pay attention. But then after I saw that, I went back, like Greg mentioned, I went back and looked through. But I'm gonna have to check out that little online video snippet that they're doing. So, and Tony, I know, I'm sorry, we're throwing a bunch of smackety smack around that you don't get involved with all the time. But we'll get to another one that you will.
No, that's great. I'm the novice here in this conversation, but I love hearing it. So keep going.
I did prepare a 4-hour lecture on the Yuzhong Bong just for Tony. I thought that was requested.
Hey,
I'll put that away.
I'm limited to a certain number of words now, Greg. I can only say a few things. I have a new filter, so.
Oh my gosh, that is fabulous. Yeah. So Force Forward number 2. I love this. The Duchess of Darksaber Light, who was on our show at one point in time, Jessica. She does a great podcast, and she's also very active on Twitter. But we also saw the same article where they are trying to throw some things out there about Obi-Wan Kenobi, Duchess Satine, and is Corky their hidden love child from the Clone Wars and the prequels. I threw it out there on Twitter that Corky Kryze, correct? I believe that's her last name, the Bo-Katan and Duchess Satine. But I threw it out there on Twitter. You know what? Until they say it's not canon, I'll let it be canon in my head. I will be okay with it. And somebody put some videos of Corky walking around like Obi-Wan, doing the chin rub like he does in throughout the movies and the cartoons. So, any thoughts on Duchess Satine, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Corky from the Clone Wars? Anybody have any theories or thoughts on that, or is it just fun?
No way, man. No way. Not a chance. Obi-Wan Kenobi had way more self-control than that. And if he has any love child anywhere, let me tell you what, that kid is a freaking boss. So there's no way. No way.
And he wouldn't be named Corky.
Nope, absolutely not. You heard it here.
Okay, well, when Duchess listens, she'll know what you're against that. Greg or Tony, any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I want to dive in and say, if we're really following the Marvel playbook of I thought they did a good job of taking Thor: The Dark World, which nobody liked, and making it really important. So maybe making Corky really important is a Star Wars move that could be the equivalent of that. I tend to land where Nick is. I love Kenobi too much to think he gave in. I like that he was tempted, but he maybe is filled with regret, but I don't think he gave in. However, give me the Claudia Gray book that tells the Obi Satine story, and I'll follow her and see whatever she does with that,
okay,
even if it's Corky.
All right. Okay. Cool. That was Force Forward number 2. So Force Forward number 3. This one could be a touchy subject or not, but the Cara Dune action figures. Now that what has transpired with Cara Dune in the series and with Gina Carano, are we thinking that these action figures are, well, they've already limited them. They've already cut back what they're going to make. Are we thinking that in 5 or 10 years from now, some of these characters are going to be worth quite a bit of money? Because obviously they don't fill the shelves like they used to. You had to order them. any thoughts on the price and the value of these in the future? Are they going to go up from the limited amount, or are they going to go down just because of the controversy related to her? Go ahead, Nick.
Can I ask a question? So if you pre-ordered this, are they just not going to ship it to you now, or are they still going to ship it because you pre-ordered it? You know what I'm saying? Like, are they going to give you your money back, or are they saying, "Hey, we'll go ahead and we're rolling this action figure out"?
From what I've seen, they were filling up the orders that they had to a certain extent and shutting down production and basically sending you a message saying, we're not going to be producing this. You're not going to be able to get this. So, and they would not keep your money, obviously, they basically say that order's been canceled. So I have the 6-inch Black series and the 3 3/4 vintage series. I was hoping to get the 6-inch with the Beskar credit, I believe, but I can't find it anywhere for low dollars. It is booming right now on the internet to buy that. So I don't know. But Greg, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I just had, this is purely anecdotal Twitter speculation, but I had a good buddy on Twitter say he was at Target tonight and the peg for Cara Dune's credit collection, Beskar collection, was empty, and the employee scanned it and said it wasn't even in the system anymore. So that's purely anecdotal, so it may not be true. I think probably right now we're seeing a bit of an inflation. I think a lot of people were trying to make a buck. There was a very funny post I saw where a guy said, I can't believe they fired her. I'm getting rid of all my Mandalorian stuff because Disney's terrible. I'm getting rid of it. And then had it all listed for like triple the price. It's like, well, I know what you're doing. You're not actually like making a principled stand here. I think it's inevitable if it ends up with just a small production run. I think it will be one of those where you can get a pretty penny if you turn yours out. Over the years, I've had a few of those just kind of by luck. When I happened to go to Target and saw the one figure hanging there, it was one of those that ended up being rare, like the old EU wave or the live action Ahsoka version on the vintage card. And it's great. You feel like you won the lottery and you justify having 100 others. Yeah, I think if I think I do have one Black Series Cara Dune. I think I'm going to hang on to it and hope, but I don't think it will go smoothly up from here. I think there's a bubble and then it'll dip, and then maybe like 10 years from now, it might be one of those rare ones that is valuable.
Gotcha. I had Steve Dawson from Geek Out Loud on, and I think he made a great quote. He was like, you know what, when I buy action figures, I don't do this with the idea that I'm going to, pay off my kids' college fund or retire on this kind of money. And, some of us who were born in the 70s and had some of those original ones, I was a kid. I didn't keep them in the package, I played with them. So, I'm never going to regain, or get that kind of value out of them. But whoever did hold on to those, God bless them, because I would have never done that. So, yeah, I mean, for me, this is fun. I like being surrounded by my favorite things. And so I had to ask the question, but really, whether it's value to somebody else, I think everybody should look at what they have as being valued, what it is to them, right? If it makes you happy or if it's something you want to hand down to your kids, great. But if you go into it where it's a financial gain or whatever, yeah, I'm not big on that. Tony, you don't have many Star Wars action figures at all anymore, right?
I've got a black toy chest that I have. The ones that I've liked the most. I've given some away. I have the Star Wars Christmas album record. I have a Jango Fett sneak peek in its package still from Clone Wars that I love. Got some other old ones like the Micro Machines. I've got a chest full that I'll keep. But yeah, I was gonna say, if they change your character, I don't know if it'll matter, because I always remember, even as a kid, looking at Star Wars figures, Han Solo and Leia, like their faces never quite looked like them anyway. So it's like they could change the actress and it still might look like what the toy looks like or anything. So, but yeah, I'd hold on to those guys. That sounds cool.
Nick, go ahead.
Well, so here's my thing with this whole conversation, and it really, like you, Joe, I love that you talk about, hey, I got into collecting action figures not to make a profit, but because it, I love being surrounded by my favorite things. For me, this whole conversation, I started watching for the first time today season 2 of The Gallery of The Mandalorian, and I was so sad watching it. And you're watching Pedro Pascal talk about like, man, I love Gina, and it's so fun working with her. And this has been, like watching these actors do this. And again, I'm not trying to dive into the controversy. I know we're trying to stay away from all that kind of stuff. At the same point, what makes me sad is this feeling of loss of innocence, if that makes sense. I love Star Wars because it's Star Wars, right? Like I don't love all the other things that go on with it. It's not that I don't care. I will say this. I wish that those characters just existed in Star Wars and that was it. And so when I hear of an action figure getting pulled and a character is all of a sudden no longer a part of canon, again, nothing to do with the real world side, it just makes me sad. Going, man, great character. Feel like we had such great potential. I understand that people pull things for different reasons from a purely Star Wars lens, right? Nothing else tied into it. Makes me sad. Feel like we lost a little something.
Nope. I got you. Well, usually we do stay away from controversy stuff. And usually we sit here and talk about, we love what we love. And you know what? I'm not a person that bashes people for loving what they love. If they love a character more or less, or if they love one of the movies more or less, I say more power to you, because I think we each have our entry point into Star Wars, and that's usually what's closest to our heart. And there are other things that make us close, make it close to us as well. Like, I don't know why that Kanan, Rex, and Ahsoka are so meaningful to me, because I was an original trilogy guy. But those 3 characters mean a ton to me, and they bring me a lot of joy and happiness about Star Wars. So I'm going to take us to the next level, because after the Gina thing and the action figures and the firings and all those things, the next thing that's come up so huge in the last few days, and the last Force 4 for this week, is the Rian Johnson trilogy. There was a young lady, and I apologize, it's on my phone, so I'm not going to be able to look it up. She did an interview with him recently on a Zoom call, I believe. And, he said, hey, it's my trilogy is still going on. It's going to happen. Now, we didn't get any time frame. It could be 30 years from now, whatever. But here's what I'm going to say. When it comes to all of this, so Force 4 is talking about Rian Johnson's trilogy, and I'll let you guys all comment, but I'm going to throw it out there as this. 1, The Last Jedi is Star Wars. I love Star Wars. It is not one of my 3 or 4 favorite movies that I throw in all the time and watch. And there are parts of it where I go, I don't really like that part, but I still love Star Wars. So while there are people who are on one side of the fence or the other side, and it's Star Wars has become politics, and I hate it, because you're either left or right in politics. You're either, I love the sequels, or I hate the sequels. That's kind of how it is all going now. And I'm a big believer in this. I can say that again, The Last Jedi is not one of my favorite Star Wars movies, but it is a Star Wars movie, and it's part of the whole story. If Rian Johnson is still going to have his new trilogy, and this might be blasphemy to some of you on this call, or some of our guys in our crew, if Rian Johnson's given another trilogy, I will go watch it, because it's Star Wars. And I will hope that it makes me feel like I'm really in the Star Wars universe, and I'll hope that it brings me in closer to the storyline. His one movie did not. I still watch it, but I don't watch it a ton. But I'm hoping that if they do give him the new one, that I go, man, I'm glad they did, and it ended up where they were all good, and I liked them. But that's where I am, and so that to me says I can play both sides of the fence, and I don't have to hate the people. And I see people right now on Twitter that if you're upset that Johnson might have a trilogy, people are just jumping down your throat. And if you're happy about it, other people are doing the same thing to them. And that's what I'm really tired of, because this Lucas made this for kids. And yes, we're grown men and we're adults, but It brings us back to being kids
Getting there.
when we watch this and we read this. So I'll throw that out there. Whoever wants to follow me, raise up and let me know. And Tony, go ahead. What are your thoughts on this, whether it's Rian Johnson trilogy or the other stuff?
Sure. So my bullet points, you kind of gave yours. My bullet points are, I love his other movies. Last Jedi, I just watched it today again, just because of the Twitter news. Last Jedi has some of my favorite Star Wars moments, and it has my least favorite Star Wars moments. But if he's gonna be at the helm of an entire trilogy, I will definitely go see it. And my hope is that then he will have more control and it will be more succinct. Yeah, I'm gonna go. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be different. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I'll keep it positive and just see what he has. But I'm hopeful because of his track record. So
Gotcha.
those are my
Nick.
thoughts.
Yeah, I would say the same. And when we did our review of Last Jedi, similar to Greg, what you were talking about with A New Hope, this movie has grown on me considerably. I think it's visually some of the most beautiful Star Wars we've had. So like from that perspective,
Agreed.
again, you get to look at everything that we get from Star Wars, whether it's good or whether it's bad, within the frame of going like, this is adding to the whole. And so there's going to be some that I really love. Like I love the Drew Karpyshyn Bane novels. Like that's one of my favorite. That is a gritty Star Wars, not your dad's, didn't grow up with it kind of Star Wars. You have the droid episodes of Rebels, right? Or of Clone Wars that are so tailored towards little kids that people go, well, when I do my Clone Wars rewatch, I skip all those episodes because of that, kind of thing. All that to be said, it's all Star Wars. And so you get the opportunity to pick and go, hey, I'm either going to like lean into that or lean away from it. But just because I lean into it one way doesn't negate that it still means something to somebody else within the Star Wars universe. Truth be told, Rian Johnson could put this trilogy out. It could get reviewed before I ever go see it. And they say it is a dumpster fire of a movie. I'm still going to see it. Like I'm still gonna get on Fandango early and buy my tickets 2 months in advance because it's Star Wars. I'm bought into the cause. I'm a lifer whether I like it or not.
You got it. I agree, brother. Greg, how about you?
Yeah, I think I would be there opening night and probably twice the next day, no matter what the review said.
We're masochists. We're like,
yeah.
we're just like, we hate him. Oh no, let's go see it.
Yeah,
just kidding.
I think there's a really hard thing happening in Star Wars right now, which is, guys our age and women our age, not to gender it. You were a Star Wars person, and that's what you were, and you loved it all because there was 3 or 6 movies and you just loved them, and everybody kind of agreed. Now, this kind of happened with the prequels where, a lot of the original fans said, no way, this is terrible. Yep. But by the end, I think we were mostly in an okay place, at least the diehard fans. The larger community will keep, film lovers will tell us Phantom Menace is terrible forever, but I think most of us accepted it. And I think we're really in a moment where we all, as individuals and as a community, have to recognize that you're not going to love all Star Wars. And to me, the people who are angriest on the internet, and they're on both sides, as you eloquently said, they got hurt because they didn't love Star Wars anymore. And that was the one truth they had, was that Star Wars is something I love. And so it's only going to get worse is my fear, because 10 series coming out, I mean, nobody's gonna absolutely love all of those series because they sound like they're so different. I mean, I think a lot of us will watch it all and consume it all and we'll debate it, but it is going to be a kind of hard thing for more and more of us to kind of recognize there are some parts of this material that aren't for me, and that's okay, right? I mean, there's always been somebody who says, I never read the books aren't for me, and we don't like call them names or run them up a flagpole and shame them and cancel them. So
not all the time. We don't do that all the time, but
we need weekends, we need rest too. I will just say, probably hearing all of you, I'm probably more positive on Last Jedi than the rest of you, but I'm definitely even more positive about Knives Out and Looper, which I just think are groundbreaking and fantastic. So I will trust Rian Johnson, and I thought the point was really well made, Tony, that it's about control. My problem with the sequel trilogy is it's clear now there was no plan, and it's kind of more in JJ's favor because he ended up getting 2 of the 3, but it really needed some kind of figure to shepherd that a little more strongly and have a longer plan. So yeah, if Ryan is the one who's holding the reins, but he gets to totally control the 3, at least till he gets fired, then I'm for it. I don't really think Ryan will get fired, but that was the track record for a while. For me, I will just also say, for me, the Disney one that doesn't really do it for me personally is Solo. Like you're all saying, some great moments, but it just doesn't quite gel all the way for me. And yet I will throw up the make Solo 2 happen hashtag all the time, because give them another shot at it. I mean, they didn't 100% it for me, but the elements are there and the ingredients are there to do well. So I think that's going to be whoever they hand a movie to. I say, why root against it? Let's, like you're all saying, let's hope for the best and see, and then be okay if that's the one we don't stream as much. It's not so
And
big.
what do we have to lose, Greg?
Yeah.
What do we have to lose? Like, if
$40 on Fandango. Not all that much in the long run.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I mean, I look at it, and Greg, you hit on the point that I think we've discussed on this podcast many times. You want to make the whole the sequel trilogy all the way Rian Johnson wanted to make it? Okay, do it. You want to make it all the way that JJ wanted to make it? Do it. But to invest, okay, I don't have $4 billion. I don't have $4 million. But if I was going to spend $4,000, I would have a plan of what I was going to do with that $4,000. To have an industry spend $4 billion and then say, they're lemmings. If we just put some on the screen, they'll show up and they'll buy it, and it doesn't matter. I think that's kind of how they just shooting from the hip, just haphazard. And that's the part that still gets me. And I don't think they realize, Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, whoever, Bob Iger, I don't think they realize the divide they created in the Star Wars fandom, just because they didn't go into it with the same passion that all these people have about it. I mean, so yeah, I agree 100%. I think it sounds to me like we're all okay. Hey, whether Last Jedi was our favorite or not, I think we'd all say, if he's going to get a shot, let's see his vision and let's go from there and let's see what happens. And we'll be there as we usually are on that opening night or opening weekend. So before we hit into our major topic tonight, do any of you guys have another topic outside of the Force 4 that is just in your head, or something you wanted to talk about before we bounce off some of the other things that are going on? I know we have the new announcement of a new Boba Fett comic coming out through Marvel, which is cool. I know Alfie was really excited about that. Let's see, what else? I can't think of anything else that stands out to me from this week. That's okay.
I'll jump on that one. I think if you're a comics reader, crossover events are always a mixed blessing. I think they sucker us all in, and then they're never as good as we'd hope they'd be. But I would say, after his other offerings in comics and in High Republic, Charles Soule has earned my trust, and that they have him spearheading this and working with the other creators is a really hopeful sign to me. And maybe it's a little more of that, when we talk about these connections, that happens when you work with people over a long period of time. And so to see what they can bring across should be hopeful. The only thing that makes me nervous is I am very partial to the story in Shadows of the Empire, how Boba Fett gets the carbonite to Jabba's palace. And there's not a lot of legends I'm really attached to, but for whatever reason, I love those kind of double crosses in games. So I think it's going to be a little tricky to rewrite that. But again, I'll buy the books. I'll be there, and I'll be hopeful.
Yeah, you know what? You hit on Shadows of the Empire. I tell you what, came out in '96, I believe. The movie without the movie. That one stuck with me big time. I was 25 years old. I didn't think I was going to get a new thing of Star Wars, really. We knew we were getting the special editions and all that, but I don't think they'd announced till '97 that they were coming out with the prequels. So yeah, I love Shadows of the Empire. The figures, the book, the soundtrack, all of it was good. Heck, even the video game was good. And I don't even play video games. So Nick, were you going to say something
I
there?
was going to say the video game, and I was also going to say we should do a Shadows of the Empire show at some point.
Count on it. We
Come
will
on.
do that 100%.
Because
I'm
with you,
marking that
Greg.
down.
That's
Shadows of the Empire.
Shadows of the Empire is awesome. And you said the thing about Charles Soule has gained your trust. I completely agree. To be able to, not only within a Marvel comic book, which is it feels like such a different medium than a book, but to be able to write Light of the Jedi as well as he has. My question to you, and Joe, I know you're through Into the Dark or going through Into the Dark as well. When we talk about the sequel trilogy not being planned out very well, I know that you both have opinions about the different books. It's not why we're here to get into all that. Do you feel like, at least continuity wise, that they're similar enough, or that they, like the track that they're going with the High Republic, like it feels thought out? Or is it still too early to tell?
It is probably too early, but at the same time, I feel like there's an overall scheme and plan to it. Like Greg said, I enjoyed the first one, the Charles Soule book, Light of the Jedi, and then I actually enjoyed the Test of Courage by Justina Ireland. I thought that was fun. It was a kid's novel, but it was fun. It was a good read. This one, I'm still getting. I'm about a third of the way through. I'm still getting my feet set on this one, Into the Dark. So, Greg, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think I could disagree that it's been planned out really well. It's hard because there is a lot of propaganda about that fact. I think they know sequel trilogy fans got burned a little bit. So when we got there's an episode of Disney Insider on Disney Plus that kind of made a lot about how planned out it was. And there was then the release panels way back when with the kind of behind the scenes reels. So I do think I've been trained to believe that, but it does show signs in the actual writing so far. And I also, my kind of prediction is I think we might end up being surprised how far back they started sprinkling hints. There's the main Star Wars comic has been talking about Starlight Beacon for a while. And then, like we were saying in the first of the Force 4, the Charles Soule has been sprinkling little details along the way. And so I think we might be surprised to go back to some of the work, maybe like 3 or 4 years back, and even find some of those already. So that to me says, they've invested in this group of creators and they're having fun. I'm interested in that mix. I'm a big Dr. Aphra fan. I think she's hanging behind me over here. And so I think there's been quite a few clues in that book as well. And that's not a High Republic author. That's
Right.
Alyssa Wong, I believe, is in charge of that book right now. So it is very encouraging to me that they might even be branching out from that core group and planning to that degree. But we'll see. Only time will tell.
Very cool.
Well, I will say this. Our major topic tonight, like I said, we're going to do a deep dive, really talk about one of our, originally was a controversial character here for Rule of the Galaxy, but I think over the past year, we've all done some digging into Count Dooku and learned a little bit more about Count Dooku, and whether it was through the Clone Wars or through books, we've brought him a little bit more into our group here. Count Dooku is kind of an honorary member of Rule of the Galaxy now. But I think also, to go along with that, the High Republic is going to end, I believe, with the Sith Acolyte show that is coming up on Disney Plus. And I think that happens 50 years before the Phantom Menace. And if that's the case, just to start off, our good friend Count Dooku was born 102 years before the Battle of Yavin. He died 19 years before the Battle of Yavin. And so he was around during the time of the end of the High Republic. So you're talking about Darth Sidious, Darth Tyrannus maybe being around, Darth Maul being around. There's some things that could sprinkle right into the beginning of this. And let's face it, with the way he is this gentleman, who does, fencing kind of lightsaber dueling and everything's, very pristine and regal, might fit right into what's going on with the High Republic there. So let's talk about our guy Count Dooku. I'll just run off a couple quick topics or points about him. Obviously, Count Dooku ended up being a Sith Lord. He was once a Jedi trained by Yoda. He trained Qui-Gon Jinn. He trained I'm blanking his name, Averil. Who was the guy before?
Rael Averross.
Rael Averross. There we go. Who was his Padawan before Qui-Gon Jinn. He became Darth Tyrannus under Darth Sidious. He was in the movies Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. He was in the Clone Wars. He was in the book Dark Disciple and in Jedi Lost. And again, he was born 102 years before the Battle of Yavin. Any initial thoughts or anything you guys want to talk about our good friend the Count before we start in and kind of run down some of his timeline here? Any thoughts? I know I will say this. When I first met Count Dooku in the prequels, I was not a big fan of his. I felt like you're bringing that, you want to bring somebody in a little more hip, a little more young, a little more like Darth Maulish, and they go with this older gentleman who was very regal, and we didn't have the full storyline, and it opens Attack of the Clones talking about him, and you're thinking, where is this coming from? Where is this going? So that was one of my initial things that kept me standoffish from him in the beginning. And then let's face it, I just don't like his ship. I still don't like his ship, the Solar Sailor or whatever. Other than that, I've really turned the corner on a lot of things with Count Dooku, especially with reading more things about him. So Greg, Nick, or Tony, any initial thoughts on Count Dooku before we dig in here?
I would say I was largely in the same place as you. I really didn't know what to make of him in Attack of the Clones. I'm not positive on the timeline there, but I'm pretty sure Christopher Lee was already in Lord of the Rings at that moment.
He was.
So it really felt strange to kind of take this really good performer, obviously, and kind of legend in British cinema, and to bring him in, and it just kind of almost felt like a knockoff of Saruman or something, because it wasn't quite there. But same exact thing. I've grown to appreciate him more. I think the Clone Wars cartoon helped a lot with that. And maybe I'll just close by saying rockin' jammies. I mean, he looks good in those silk PJs, and who can begrudge a Sith Lord who wants to be comfortable. So
no, I got you. I got you. I like it a lot. So Tony or Nick, any thoughts initially on good old Mr. Dooku?
Yeah, I'll say this. When Attack of the Clones came out, it was 2002, correct? Is that right? 2002. Yep. So I was 9 years old. Okay. Imagine 9-year-old Nick going to the theater, watching this older gentleman spar with Yoda. I thought Count Dooku was awesome. You can say what you thought about the ship. Out of all the movies that I've seen in theaters, I saw Attack of the Clones more times than any of the other movies that I've seen, like 6 times. At 9 years old, I dragged my grandparents. Somebody that would take me to go see it, and I loved it. Still holds a special spot in my heart today. But to the point, so you guys were saying he didn't start as my favorite, but then he grew and became my favorite. I loved him back then, and all the supplemental stuff that we've got since. Just because, and when I feel like I need to defend myself here, because after all the conversations that we've had about Dooku and not liking his lightsaber handle and stuff like that, I like Dooku because, again, it was another Sith. I like learning more about the Sith. I think that's cool. And there was more of a, like I feel like Dooku's character just shines the light on how incredible Palpatine really is, which somewhere Brent is rolling his eyes listening to this right now. But I thought he was awesome. And then you add in all the complexities and layers of the things that he's juggling during this time period when he's really Count Dooku. And for me, reading Dark Disciple with you, Joe, that was, he only went up in my book from there. He went up in my book with the whole Night Sisters arc in Dathomir, where Mother Talzin is reaching through space-time to mess with him, like with the voodoo doll, kind of like, so the amount of content that we've got about Count Dooku is staggering. Like, really, when you think about Star Wars characters that we've gotten in-depth kind of dives on, there's a lot of material out about Count Dooku, and I am still a Count Dooku fan. R.I.P. Christopher Lee.
All right.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, we can't be talking about okay, I'll just say this, like, he's grown on me. I need to read the books. The Clone Wars animation series was cool because the thing I didn't okay, it wasn't his age as so much as his demeanor. I just didn't for some reason like the way his demeanor was in the Clone Wars, and I don't think it just didn't hit me well. It wasn't, I don't know, something about it. So I wasn't a big fan. I'm not like a huge fan now, but he has grown on me, and the lightsaber has grown on me. That I think it's a little cooler now. So
But Tony, this
those are
was
my
the guy that trained Qui-Gon Jinn. This was
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi's master's master. Like, come
I
on,
just
man.
man, I don't know. I
You
just
have the right to have the demeanor of kind of the I've seen things and I know things. He's been
no.
around the
It's
block.
just he looks like he looks like he just came off of like a vacation, or I don't know. There's something weird about
it's the
it. I don't-
pajamas. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's just he's not there's not enough like fear, there's not enough evil, or there's not enough power. I don't know, he just looks too regal and controlled or contained. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying,
No.
but that's just how I felt.
Well, he was born to royalty on Sereno, and reading through some of the books and some of the information about him, which I forgot to mention, he was also mentioned a lot in Master and Apprentice, the Qui-Gon Obi-Wan book. His father was, king, I believe, or something like that, but his father hated force sensitive people. He thought they were freaks. He didn't want his family to be attached to that. So he was, like most Jedi children are found and taken. His father, so you want to talk about a start, his father basically just took him out, threw him out, unclothed, no food, as a toddler or something, out into the wilderness. Thought he was going to get eaten or killed out there, and I forget who it was, but someone found him out there and brought him to the Jedi. So his whole story, and if you read in the Count Dooku Jedi Lost, there's a lot of background on that, where he has emotional problems with his father. He loses his mother when he's 20 and goes back to her funeral. He still keeps in touch with his sister, Jinza. She really tries to keep in close contact with him, even though he's part of the Jedi. So he's got a lot of emotional baggage going back and forth throughout his whole life. So I thought that was really good to go into that story right there. And that's the kind of stuff I love about Star Wars, is getting deep, going and telling us why is this guy like this? I mean, some stories I guess are okay to just say, oh, he's just bad because he's bad. Okay, well, that's fine. But I like knowing what are some things that maybe push him in that direction. And I think that book in particular did a good job for me of well, it was an audiobook, but it did a great job of going into some real depth in his childhood and his upbringing and things like that. So any thoughts? I mean, does that to you guys maybe show reasons why he would start having these issues and struggles as he got older even?
Yeah, and I think, Joe, your point of, he what I like is when you say, why are you the way that you are? We get introduced to Darth Maul in episode 1, and you know nothing about him other than the fact that he looks like the devil, and he's scary as what, right? And he's raw power embodied, right? Whereas in episode 2, you get introduced to Count Dooku, who's very meticulous, thought through, suave, very put together, very under control. And for me, I like those two, all the events that you're speaking of that lead up to this point, that lead him to a place where he's seasoned, right? Which is better than old, but he's seasoned and, has this different view other than I'm more powerful than most of the other Jedi. I think he even says something in Attack of the Clones of like, I've become more powerful than any Jedi, even you, Yoda, right? He knows that he is, but he doesn't have to embody it physically. And to me, I think that's why he's such a compelling character to me, because Darth Maul, you just know I need to be afraid of that guy. Count Dooku, it takes you a little while to be like, oh, don't mess with this guy. This dude's seen some stuff. He's been around the block a couple times, and I don't know. That might be why I like him so much, because of that backstory you're talking about.
No problem. Greg, Tony, any more thoughts on that?
I really like what Nick said there, because it's another example of how the prequels slowly build Vader, right? We literally build Vader by seeing Anakin become Vader, but we also see Palpatine trying out these different apprentices, building his way towards everything Vader will become. So
Cool.
this idea that, from Darth Maul, he gets the rage and the kind of fury, but Vader, to be successful as the apprentice, will need the strategic side of Count Dooku, the politics side, to be able to manipulate. And a lot of the stories we get from between the two trilogies show that side of Vader. And then Grievous is just kind of raw strength and, I don't know, wanting to hunt Jedi and so on that side. So
Robot.
yeah, right. We needed that last artificial piece. So but I'll just echo the love of Dooku Jedi Lost, that is a really nice piece of Star Wars media. You can listen to it is definitely the preferred way to do it, but you can also get the script book. I know they were hanging out at my Target forever. And both of them together, it's kind of a good way to experience it, to get the details on it. One thing that stood out in my love of Count Dooku, which I don't know, and I thought about this for years till we started talking about him, was did you guys ever collect some of the Topps Galaxy trading cards at all?
A little bit.
Yeah, those are the series that are artists' interpretations. And I know probably around 2005, 2006, I think there was a series that had one that just showed young Count Dooku on a mission with Yoda. I quickly looked at the binder behind me, and then I was like, there's no way I'm finding that one card that quickly. But it was really kind of a moment that opened him up for me, and exactly like you're saying about Dooku Jedi Lost. I think young Dooku is really compelling, and trying to figure out how somebody gets to be a top tier Jedi and just walks away and gets seduced by the dark side, but not exactly at the same moment, right? Walks away and then is later seduced into the dark side it's really interesting. And, Star Wars as allegory for real life, I think that's a really compelling story to tell young people and to get people thinking about.
Yep. I think one of the things that stood out to me a lot about him, as again, he was thrust onto us, the name and everything at the beginning of Attack of the Clones. But then at the end, when he has Obi-Wan trapped and says that the Sith are now in charge of the Senate, and that he asks him to join him, and he says that he misses Qui-Gon because Qui-Gon, I feel like Qui-Gon would really, understand. Qui-Gon would want to help him, right? I thought at that time it almost felt like throwaway. And it was more of the, just mischievous, deceitful kind of Sith, but he was actually just telling the truth. I mean, in the overall scheme, right? I mean, was he not telling Obi-Wan everything of the story right then and there? And I mean, that was pretty ballsy of him to just say, yeah, I'm just going to tell you everything about it. You choose, right? So did Tony, with you being less of a book person and more of the visual person,
maybe
did that point stand out to you at all in that movie? Or now that you've rewatched it?
No, yeah, I love what you guys are saying from the novels and his backstory. I mean, that gives me a whole new perspective on it. But man, I just, for some reason, I feel like he's weak in the movies. I feel like he, him doing the classic villain thing of telling his whole plan and him telling Yoda that he's more powerful. Powers.
Come on,
exactly. but when he tells Yoda that he's more powerful than him, that just is a big sign of weakness to me. And I don't know. It's hard for me to respect him as this bad guy who, again, the backstory sounds great, but it's still not doing it for me. I don't know.
You're fine. I just thought it was really cool that, you have Vader do that to Luke, in Empire Strikes Back. In the middle one, you have him do that to Obi-Wan Kenobi. I believe we had Kylo Ren do that to Rey in The Last Jedi, correct? Basically said, here's my plan, follow along, join with me, right? I mean, it's the middle of the trilogy where they do that. Now, not gonna lie, I wish Rey would have went ahead and joined and gone dark, and that would have been a fun, interesting storyline. But
agreed.
But I do not want Obi-Wan to go dark. I'm just going to end that story right there. So yeah, I don't know. Nick, did you any thoughts on that? Where he basically came out and told him the truth right from that point?
I do. I think it's one of those, like, it's almost such a crazy, it's like, it's so crazy that he comes straight out and he tells him that it's almost like, no, I think that can't be real what he's actually telling me. Like, I always watch that back, and when he's like, what if I told you that the entire Galactic Senate was under the control of a Dark Lord of the Sith? I don't know why your first thought wouldn't be like, you mean like the guy that was elected in to be the leader of the democracy that's now like running the thing, And so for me, it was almost like it's so blunt that it almost doesn't seem real. And Tony, to your point where you say, I feel like he's really weak in the films. I think there are definitely some glaring moments where he seems weak, right? Like when him and Yoda are in that like forced competition and he like lifts his arms up to like raise down the rocks, he like shows his age, right? Like it looks like he's about to have a hernia, pulling these rocks down from the ceiling. At the same point, there are moments where I feel like he shows a different subtle kind of strength. Like when he's battling Anakin aboard Grievous's ship, right? And he's like, I sense great fear in you. You have hate, you have anger, but you don't use it. And he's goading Anakin into, essentially tapping into the dark side and doing that. And literally showing strength that even in the middle of this fight against arguably one of the best duelists ever, I'm still poised and in control enough to kind of do the classic, bait him into using the dark side. So I don't know. I think it's a very non-traditional view of power maybe, but it's very subtle and sneaky kind of throughout where it goes. And I'll save it. Go back to you, Joe. I'll save it.
No. I was just looking at it, and not only in the movies but in the Clone Wars, we definitely get to see that Count Dooku faces some of the best on both sides, right? He faces Yoda. I mean, both are advanced ages at that time in Attack of the Clones. He faces Obi-Wan and Anakin twice. One time turned out to be pretty good for him. The other time, not so much. But he faces off against Asajj Ventress, Savage Opress. He really has. We're looking at a guy who's 80 years old, and he's doing these battles with these people, and he's still doing the whole dueling, fencing kind of moves. While they're all jumping all over the place, he's just standing there and just flipping the wrist, right? And so, I mean, there definitely is some power there. But I think, man, just looking at that lineup, there's not a lot of other people in the Star Wars, history that face those kind of people. Do we have anything of him facing Palpatine ever? Did Palpatine ever challenge him, push him? Do we have that in anything? I don't remember of any books or anything like that where, because I know Maul and Palpatine had their battles and things like that, but and Vader later on down the line, try to usurp Palpatine some things, but I don't think we've got anything on him facing Palpatine. But you mix all those in, and then also that we had him interact with Hondo Ohnaka. So I mean, this guy's seen a little bit of everything and been around the block a few times throughout the Clone Wars. So what are you guys' thoughts on that? That he has to be pretty good to be able to battle all those different people.
Joe, am I remembering it wrong that I can't remember if it was Clone Wars, if it was Rebels, where I saw it, but isn't there maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but where Dooku like conjures Sidious through some sort of Sith ritual or something, and then the Emperor shocks him? Am I making that up? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm totally remembering something else, and we'll come back and we can figure that out.
Well, he wasn't in Rebels, so we don't have to worry about that.
It wasn't
Clone
Rebels.
Wars, I don't remember anything that stands out to me.
It was season 7, and it was season 6.
The Lost Missions.
The Lost Missions. Yeah, that's it. And he was. Yoda was having that vision of going to go track down Thank you, Greg. He was going to track down Palpatine. And he walks in, and Dooku's like conjuring Palpatine, and there's something to that. I can't remember the specifics of it.
I thought Palpatine and him were conjuring things up to face Yoda at that time. Weren't they getting into his head? They were going to that pool and pulling him out, kind of like the Harry Potter pool, and grabbing things out of that.
Yeah,
but
I thought that he shocks. I thought that Palpatine shocks Dooku though. with the Force lightning there.
I have to go look that back over. I don't remember it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen because I've watched a million hours worth of Star Wars content. So,
Right.
so I thought this was interesting. We hear the name Sifo Diaz in Attack of the Clones. We don't have much background on him, but it turns out that one of Count Dooku's classmates who he entered the academy and everything with was Sifo Diaz. And he was one of the only ones that Count Dooku was close to. And, you know, he basically, I mean, you guys correct me. Did he, I know one thing that kind of almost broke up their friendship was they had to battle each other when they were looking to get their masters. And he beat Sifo Diaz one-handed while blindfolded. That's how he beat him in the duel. And because he was trying to get after the master Castana, that's who he wanted. But Sifo Diaz actually, after the battle, after the duel, she took Sifo Diaz and Yoda took Count Dooku. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But they had this friendship, and you guys probably know more than me. I did some research on it, but how he tricked him into, or how that all happened, where he actually did get Sifo Diaz to pull the strings on that clone army there. What fill me in? I know you guys know more than me on that. Did he trick him, or did he just use his name and then kill him off with it? Because I think Sifo Diaz was having some dreams about the end of the Republic and things like that. And I think he talked him into getting that army built so that they'd have a backup plan in case the Republic was getting taken down. Correct? I don't know. I've read so much on Dooku in the last 2 days. Anybody?
I can try to jump in, but I'm working on slightly hazy memories. I will slightly. I don't know that, Tony, you need my defense, but I'll join you to say that the movies don't present the best side of Dooku. And one of the things that really bothers me about that is the whole Darth Tyrannus thing. And then you get Sifo Diaz. And that's really confusing if you only watch Attack of the Clones. It really doesn't come together. At the time, I think we all thought, oh, this will all be, ironed out in Revenge of the Sith. And it never quite got figured out. So then Clone Wars and then really Dooku Jedi Lost tried to piece all this back together. As I understand it, the real story is George Lucas wrote down that he wanted Sidious to have ordered the clone army and then just misspelled it. And somebody understood it as Sifo Diaz. And he's like, yeah, sounds good. I like it. And they went with that. So yeah, we make fun of the sequels, but it's not like the prequels had the best control at times either. So, but as I understand it, Sifo Diaz is kind of blessed and cursed with having really strong foresight. And there's an incident in Dooku Jedi Lost where he foresees an agricultural world getting a major disaster happening on it. And a fire, I believe, of some kind. And so his vision inspires the Jedi. The Jedi at first say, like, well, we don't act on premonitions because that just makes the premonitions come true. And I think Dooku and Sifo Diaz work together to go save people and fight that disaster. And as I recall, then the next time Sifo Diaz has a vision, and it is all happening the same way, that there is going to be a giant threat to the Republic, Dooku does help him decide, like, yeah, I'm going to find the army. I'm going to build the army and do that. Then you're also getting back to the Clone Wars there, where there's they find his body in the shuttle, as I recall. That's another lost mission.
And Silman, his assistant, was with him.
Right. And so, yeah, it's a place where I will just say there's a lot of potential there. I think we got some broad strokes of it, but if somebody wanted to really write a Sifo Diaz novel, I think there'd be a lot of potential to that, or a comic or whatever.
Gotcha. Some other quick pointers on Dooku. Obviously, he became a master. He ended up on the Jedi Council. He did create his curved hilt due to his dueling style, and his initial lightsaber color was blue before he became a Sith, and it was red. He helped Mother Talzin on Dathomir at one point in time and gave her a lock of his hair. I don't know. Maybe it was just a cool thing to do, but I don't know. I mean, I wish I had enough hair to give locks of my hair away. Actually, Rael Averross was the one who introduced Count Dooku to Sheev Palpatine on Naboo. So that's a connection there. His former apprentice introduced him to Sheev Palpatine. And then, let's see, 68 years before the Battle of Yavin. So at that time, Dooku is 34 years old. He takes Qui-Gon Jinn on as a Padawan. Qui-Gon was 12 at the time. And he showed him a lot of things to do with the holocrons and prophecies. And that's one of the reasons why Qui-Gon was so into that when he was talking about that to the Jedi during the Phantom Menace and in Master and Apprentice, which really delved into that right there. Excuse me. So yeah, so that is where I've gotten to on all that. We know he trained Rael Averross. We know he trained Qui-Gon Jinn. He met Sheev through Averross. He had connections with Mother Talzin even before the Clone Wars and before he started to draft in and recruit people from there. So there's a lot of stuff going on with Count Dooku. I like that his lightsaber was blue before. That's pretty cool. Maybe they'll come out with that. Maybe you can switch out the red one with the hilt you can buy at Disney. We've wrapped up a lot of stuff in Dooku. Any other thoughts or things that I'm missing out or things that we should hit on about him, whether it was in the movies or Clone Wars or what have you?
I wish they had shown that blue lightsaber in season 6 of the Clone Wars. And it's that same episode that we're thinking, where Yoda sees that alternate kind of like, he's standing in the Jedi temple and Dooku shows up and he like kind of freaks for a second. He's like, Dooku. And he's like, oh, Master Yoda, and does this whole like, I wish you could have seen more of Dooku in that. I love the kind of alternate play that they do on that, but no,
Me too.
You've nailed a lot of it, Joe.
He had a long life. I mean, let's face it. He lived to be 83 years old. So, I mean, he was human form or whatever. He was a human-based individual. So 83 years and battling all those people, that's a long time to make it with all the battles he went through and the ups and downs. What are some other things besides his ship, again, which I hate, that stand out to you guys about Dooku?
What is it that you hate so much about it? Like, what is it that you hate so much?
It just doesn't, I mean, you have all these, you have Jedi starfighters and you have the droid ships and you have New Republic ships and you have all these things going around at this high speed and all these weapons. And I don't even think there's weapons on his ship. It's just a solar big net thing that goes out and drags him along with a little robot driving along. I don't know. I guess because he's regal and royal, he's used to having like horse-drawn carriages or something like that. I don't know. I mean, who would put horses in space? I mean, no. Oh, wait a minute. That did happen. But I don't know. It never clicked with me. The rest of the stuff about Dooku is clicking more. Now, if they can just go in and re-edit like Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith and make his ship a little cooler, I'll be happy with that. If George was still in charge, they probably would, because that's what George liked to do. Special editions of the prequels. I don't know. I would say this from a year ago. If you'd have told me in January of last year when I started this show with Joey that I would say that I kind of dig Count Dooku now. And we joked with Brent on the show that why aren't people buying the Count Dooku lightsaber hilt at Disney and everything? If I had unlimited funds, I think it's cool. I like the bent handle, the dueling kind of aspect to it. We jokingly called him. I called him Stumpy because after Revenge of the Sith, he had both hands cut off and his head cut off and just had stumps everywhere. So I mean, but I've kind of turned into more of a fan of Count Dooku. So I don't know. Maybe it's because he was around Asajj Ventress so much, and I like Asajj. So
I liked what we did a couple episodes back where we kind of talked about different actors that could play different parts in the Star Wars universe. And maybe I'll have to follow up. I'm trying to think of, again, not to Christopher Lee, right? That's his name. Nothing again. I think maybe I just need to think of another gentleman that could play that part for me, because he was great in Lord of the Rings, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to like pick someone else in that role. So just for the movies again.
Tony, if I would have thrown out there that 24 years ago that Sean Connery would have played Count Dooku, would you have gone for that?
I feel like it needs to be really thin. Like I need him to. I don't know. There needs to be some. There needs to be some element that he's just a little off. I think he was too normal looking, too regal, too elegant. I think there needs to be something. There needs to be. He needs to have really thin. Nick, I don't debate a lot of topics, but I will go down.
Tony, that's
blazing
the
with-
beauty of it, though.
No,
He's the
it-
skilled
Oh.
politician, my friend.
Oh
He's the one
god.
that you don't see that jabs the knife in between your ribs. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the one that you're not.
I know
suspecting.
I'm being too overt. I know. I need him to look evil. I get it, but then he just needs to be cooler. I don't know. I guess that's it. But
Okay, fair.
No, it's not fair. I'll think of some actors that I would put in that position, and then you guys can hate me for it. So
You're okay. Does anybody have a Count Dooku action figure?
I think I have the one with the magnet hands that I think
Is that real?
does that really exist?
I'm not positive. So Attack of the Clones had a lot of toys where like Anakin's arm, that's when we learned he was going to lose his arm, is he had a magnet arm that could be taken off. I don't think they kept that over for Revenge of the Sith. So it's probably a fantasy, but hopefully they have
That would be great.
Does it have little charred edges on it?
If only.
Yeah, that was too grotesque. Does the head come off as well too?
I mean, you can
Jeez.
customize it now.
Yeah. It can.
Yeah, no, speaking of that, Greg, that was during that time frame. I love Star Wars action figures. I do. I love having them all around. Makes me feel like a kid, but that magnet phase we went through it just bothered me. I mean, you had the Jango Fett that had the magnet that the head came off.
Yep,
So
yep.
I don't know why we wouldn't have the Count Dooku version of that. But it would be, you lost things so easily, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those were Joey's toys, and I'd be like, "Where's his arm? Who's got this guy's head?" And they, be like, "Oh, it's magnetized and it's stuck to something somewhere." So,
Yeah.
but
You know
yeah,
what?
yeah. Go
Now
ahead,
that you
Nick.
say that, I have a Luke Skywalker from Cloud City that the hand comes off as well too.
Did they go back and remake some of
They
that? Because
did.
I know
They
they
went
did
back
a
and they
mall,
remade it.
right?
Yep.
Didn't they do a mall?
And it was a
Mhm.
magnet, and you
That
could
sounds
pull the
familiar.
hand off, and then you could put, like when he's in the Falcon, that sleeve that they put over the top of it, whatever that was,
Mm-hmm.
growing it back or something like that. But that came with it too. So yeah, okay. I got to see. I'm gonna put that up on my list of action figures. That if someday I ever am allowed to buy action figures again, I will buy that.
Well, you have a son, so you're allowed to buy action figures starting very soon.
There you go. He will choke on the
Uh,
and never do I ever want my kid to choke. And the reason he choked was because he choked on Count Dooku's severed hand.
That's a hard ER doctor conversation.
yes, hard wife conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
But did you save the hands, Doctor? I need those for my figurines.
Yeah, that's a bad conversation. So we kind of tapped out on everything with Dooku. Anything else you guys want to hit before we go? Because we've had a good show. It's been a long show. I thought we hit some really fun, good topics. And anything else that stand out to you before we break it away and look towards next week? Nothing? Anything? Greg, I will say this. It's sorry if I know I talk way too much, so we
No,
should
not
have
at
given you
all.
more airtime completely, but you're our guest. Thank you again for being a part. And again, for anybody who's listening right now, best ways to reach out to you if they want to follow you or anything like that again.
Sure. So the best way to find me is on Twitter at EyeonCanon, EYEONCANON. And I'm also on Instagram under the same name, and I only try to post pictures of my collection and new acquisitions and new displays and stuff. So I plug that, and then I have a silly little video I made last Star Wars Day. Basically, I was listening to a lot of podcasts that were having trouble knowing their Joseph Campbell and their mythology. So I was all set up for my remote teaching last spring to do a lecture at a blackboard in my house. So I made a video that's kind of walking you through Joseph Campbell and how to apply it well. And so that's you can find it on my Twitter too, but that's something I like to plug just because we all bring what we can to fandom, and I could bring my expertise and share that. And so I hope it's helpful to people who are a little more interested in that side of the fandom. But more than anything, I'll just thank you guys. This was a blast. I really want my name written down for the Shadows of the Empire show someday. I'll invite myself back. But it was a lot of fun to just hang and talk a little Dooku and a little news. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Nick and Tony, as always, thank you. And we'll go fight this snow battle the rest of the week here in Indianapolis. So that'll be fun. We pretend like we're on Hoth, as Tony did the other day when he said he thought it smelled bad on the inside or outside, whichever one you did. Anyway, but thank you guys for always being here for me and just let me have a place to go and geek out for a little while. Again, for everybody who's following, follow us at Rule the Galaxy SW on Twitter. Email us at ruletheGalaxySW@gmail.com. Go check us out on YouTube. We'll actually post this show on YouTube here in a few days. So you can go check that out because we all look really nice, and Greg's got a good background there behind him. So, to everybody out there, thanks so much for being a part of what we do. Thank you to all the people who entered the subscription contest. We had a bunch of people subscribe to the show. Willie Harms, your gift pack will be going out here probably tomorrow since all this snow. So thank you for entering, everybody. And Willie, congrats on winning that. And until next week, thanks again, and may the force be with you.